Three, two, one.
Permit, look, this is important comedy, all right? None of those knock-knock jokes from before, all right? I gotta make a difference. Statler Waldorf, are you gonna back me up here? This bear is not afraid to say the truth. Hey, Fozzie, what are your thoughts on the Confederacy? Not good. Woo, yeah. See? Yeah, I see. All right, well, if they like it, then they can like it. Thank you so much, everybody. I appreciate all the love. I do take requests. Okay, I know. Do one about the atomic bombs. Did they exist? No, when they bombed Japan. What are your thoughts on that? Oh, all right. Shit, all right, Then they gotta be doing any of the heavy hitter ones. But, no. Racism is wrong. Oh, do one on the war in Iraq. Do that one. Yeah, was that wrong or right? Oh, yeah, the war. The war on Iraq, the Iraqi war. It's getting hot in here. This guy's so fucking funny. Thanks. The Iraq War. There. Well, hindsight is 2020. I take it back. Kill this motherfucker. Curse you, George W. Bush. Welcome to Campy Cast.
I have no idea what the fuck you just said. I was just sitting there for like a whole minute watching you ramble on for like whatever.
It's from the Muppets Get Controversial by Solid JJ.
I'll probably watch that after this.
I thought you might have saw that one. So I think where it says it's about Fozzie trying to like make more woke material, and all of his jokes are just him saying this historical event was bad. It's great.
Okay.
Women shouldn't vote.
Anyways, welcome to Campy Cast again. It has been
a while, you guys.
Yeah, I know.
Pretty crazy.
It's been a bit inconsistent as of late of uploads. I know we've been taking breaks, blah blah blah. It's just been hard to schedule and just hard to do. So yeah, we're back, and soon we'll start uploading, hopefully like more often. Like, I'm not gonna say more consistently, since like at this point, I don't know, it's just kind of we upload whenever we feel like it and stuff like that. So yeah, but we're back. It's near the Christmas season, so this might be our Christmas special, or we might do something else after.
Technically.
Or we had one Christmas on a completely other channel, which we'll get to later. But yeah.
Yeah, well, you'll see. We'll just say it may be a bit of a crossover episode.
Yeah, it might be a bit of a technical foul. So.
Yeah, that's a good one. If you get what I'm saying.
Yeah.
But anyway, not about technical fouls right now, because we got 3 more Muppet movies to talk about. Yeah, Muppet Part 2.
Muppet stuff, we said we'd do all the other theatrical Muppet movie stuff. Maybe we'll do some direct-to-DVD stuff. We don't know how we're going to do this fully, but yeah, we'll definitely be talking about the 2010s Muppet movies next after.
Yeah.
So stay tuned for that. And
it's nice to get back here. I really enjoyed that episode we did on the first 3 Muppet films. This is the franchise I'm very invested in, so it was fun to get back into the swing of things
and I think I have more to say about these other 3 movies as well. So I think
I have a lot to say about the first and third movies of this video, but we'll get into it.
Yeah. As for news, I mean, we've been gone for a while, so there's some news, and we might just quickly summarize some of it. Like, in terms of gaming, E3 is dead now, which is something I used to get into for like a year and tried to try that out. And
to be entirely honest, I'm not really sad about E3 not happening, which I know sounds sacrilegious to some fans. Like, how could you not care about E3? But to be perfectly honest, if you were like following, you could kind of see the downfall signs of E3, because I don't know if you remember E20. It didn't happen in 2020 because of COVID, right? But even like ignoring that, it was like, well, no one really cared after like a while, and it was like, I don't know, E3 was always one of those things where it's like, I liked the spirit of it. Everyone was getting into this thing. It's like, oh, more games being announced.
Yeah, that was the main appeal of it.
But see, as a stupid Nintendo fan, I only cared when they did directs, and some years they'd even opt out of doing them. So I was like, won't we even do it anymore? It doesn't even
Yeah.
like the whole spirit and like show of E3 companies doing big shows in person. I feel like that's kind of been lost over the years. So while it is kind of sad that E3's gone, I feel like all I'm saying is if you were following the history of it, you could kind of see what was happening. Is to say, but it's yeah, there's that. Not
Yeah.
much news other than that, at least
Yeah, I
recently.
mean, there's
What
some
do you want
stuff
to?
like in gaming, like
Yeah,
we finally got the GTA 6 trailer, which everyone and their mother who've played the games more in depth have been freaking out about. And I'm definitely
yeah,
planning on
I
getting
don't.
into those games a bit more soon, which then maybe I'll have more passionate feelings about the long awaited sixth release, but I just thought that was worth a quick mention. So there's also that.
Hmm. Hmm.
And then there was what was other movie type news? I mean, I swear there was more stuff, but like I don't know if there's like
Hmm.
huge stuff that comes to mind other than like I don't know, little stuff. Like
Hmm.
maybe there was some movie
Yeah,
trailers. Like
yeah. The GTA 6 like hasn't like I don't really care about the franchise that much. So I think the main thing that I find it funny is it got leaked the day before, and it's like, bruh, you waited like 10 years for this. You could have waited one more day. Come on. They're just ridiculous. I
yeah.
mean, they practically bullied Rockstar into releasing it officially the day before. I find that really funny, but that's not
Yeah.
really like traditional news. Uh, I guess I don't know. I don't have a lot of other stuff. Ten Show got a trailer, but I'm gonna save my thoughts on that for when we actually discuss the full series when it
Yeah.
comes out in January.
Mhm.
Short of it is I laughed. That's all I need to know right now.
Yeah.
Uh,
Speaking of
and
other trailers, I know we're kind of inconsistent when like talking about what movie trailers we talk about and not, but that's only like when we feel like talking about some new movie trailers that came out. And yeah, in this case, we finally got a trailer for the fourth Kung Fu Panda movie, which looks kind of just fine. Like I'm not, I really like the original three movies, but this one just kind of looks like looks fine, I guess, but there just doesn't really seem anything that's like I don't know, that seems that interesting. Wakafina is in the movie. Aquafina.
confession, I did not watch the trailer. However, from what I've heard plot wise, I'm not really digging this one. It's like, oh, we're gonna bring back the old villains, and it's like,
It seems that they're
ooh.
not like actually. It seems by the trailer that they're not like they are bringing back the old villains, but not like the characters mainly. I think the villain is just kind of gonna shape shift into them as like
Yeah, no, I heard
new
about that. That's
puppets.
still just kind of. It feels kind of nostalgia baity. Not gonna lie, like,
They did
I
get
don't know.
Ian McShane back to play Tai Lung, which is kind of cool, I guess, because he was one of the best parts of the original movie. But who knows? Maybe we'll cover Kung Fu Panda another day. I wouldn't mind talking about those
Yeah, maybe
movies.
we do a franchise one on that because I haven't seen those movies in a while. Could be a nice excuse to give the
Yeah,
good
maybe we'll
hard
include the fourth
revisit.
one, do a full quadrilogy episode once the movie comes out.
Maybe.
I bring Kung Fu Panda 4 up specifically because this kind of transitions into the topic of the fact that like it doesn't feel like there's much big interesting releases coming out next year, which I think might have been because of the writer strike that's been a huge part of this year in terms of the movie industry, which I think
Mhm.
that yeah, there's just not a lot of films like that I'm that excited for. Yeah, I'm just unsure. I don't know. Like I'm not sure about stuff from next year. There's just not a lot of interesting stuff coming out. So
Mhm.
we'll see. I don't know.
Uh, I don't have much faith, but I don't know. I'll wait to judge because again, I'm not all too invested. Just I don't know. The Kung Fu Panda, I've never been like okay. I love the first one. The second is good, but I don't have like as much attachment to it. And three is all right. It's like a solid conclusion, you know. It's not like overly into it, I guess. But yeah, we'll see how
I
far.
always thought Kung Fu Panda was a solid trilogy.
Hmm. Yeah. The only other piece of news I just want to mention briefly, is it was announced that Matt Braley, my boy, Amphibia creator, and Rebecca Sugar creator of Steven Universe,
Uh-oh.
are working together on a film at Sony, which we don't have much info about outside of just its two creators being there. So I'll keep this brief. However, I think I think this can literally go either way with it because I'm not going to explain my thoughts on Amphibia. If you know me, you know. But like, and the fact that Rebecca Sugar there makes me a little dubious because she's not the best writer if you know enough about Steven Universe. So it's like, is she really gonna pull it off? But also, Rebecca Sugar being there means the movie will definitely have good music. And also, Matt Braley gets a pass to make mid for the rest of his life. All I care. He made Amphibia. He's all right with me. But we'll see. This movie definitely won't be out like soon. So I don't know. Maybe in like 3 years, we'll see how it is. Whenever it drops. I'm curious just based on the people attached, but I don't know how even like quality wise it'll be.
It's also
yet.
like a Sony movie, which I noticed Sony has been doing a lot of different experimental things, I guess. Like,
well, I wasn't even thinking about the Sony aspect of it because I don't know. It's not really the studio that makes like the. I don't think that really is going to have much impact into it unless Sony creatively meddles, which I don't know. Sony has technically still been on their up and up with technically being better, so I don't know.
yeah, I keep hearing stuff about. I know they're making like a rated R movie about a dog that is gonna get neutered and spends his last day with his balls.
Oh shit! Yeah, I remember that.
It's
Gendy's
2D
working on that.
animated, from what I've heard, which is kind of cool. Which is pretty cool.
Yeah. No, I'm really excited about that because Gendy Tartakovsky is working on that, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
Who you might know as the creator of Samurai Jack, Primal, Dexter's Lab, worked on Cartoon Network stuff in that time. He's a big name, and I trust most of what he's worked on, except for like the Hotel Transylvania movies. But I don't know. He's a neat old guy, and I think it's neat that Sony's experimenting with something a little bit. And considering it's Gendy, I doubt it'll be like fucking Strays or whatever, where just the dog sweared. Ooh,
No,
I have more. Yeah,
I'm huge on, but who knows? They could probably do something different. I hope they do something good with it. It does sound like I like from what I've heard, the cool 2D animated aspect, and I hope it turns out good. So yeah. Anything else to say?
Is that any other news?
No, there's probably some other announcements. Those are the main interesting things that kind of came to mind. So,
no.
I guess we could get into the movies if you're ready. I guess we could go in.
Moving forward. All right. So Muppet films. I don't know if we need to give a proper introduction, but we're on to Muppet Christmas Carol.
Yeah.
All right. So to set the scene a little, I know it's no introduction. I just meant to these three movies because I already know what we're covering. But to set the stage a little bit, so we got a big gap here. It's Manhattan was 84, and this is 92, 1992. And there's a lot of Muppet history in that time, which I cannot go into. There's a big chunk. However, to summarize, just to set the stage for how this movie was made, Jim Henson was working on a lot of different projects in the 80s. A lot of different things went through the Muppets. However, in that time, we didn't really have he didn't really have the ability to do more stuff with the Muppets, and very tragically, Jim Henson had passed June 1990, which is awfully sad. If you want to get more into Jim Henson's life and junk, I would extremely highly recommend this documentary series by if you search up Defunctland Jim Henson, and they have this mini series on each of his huge projects throughout his life. It's a really good watch, and it goes into where Jim's headspace was near the end of his life. But point is, no Jim, you can't really do Muppet stuff, at least at the time. They were kind of scrambling. Beforehand, they wanted to make this other Muppet movie, which I don't know if you've heard of. It was going to be called the cheapest Muppet movie ever made, and it was a script made by I think Frank Oz, but it would have been, I might have been someone else, I forget. But the whole thing was in concept, it was really funny. They were gonna make this Gonzo was like directing a Muppet movie in universe. However, he blows his budget on like the opening credits. So over time, the in universe movie budget just slowly decreases until the movie looks like total garbage near the end, and the script's writing starts decreasing. It sounded really funny from what I heard of it. I think it would have been like a great movie. But yeah, sadly that never saw the light of day. And after Jim's passing and everything was like it's just really like tragic stuff. The man was like a legend and he changed the world of puppeteering forever. I will like forever owe my gratitude to Jim Henson. However, point is now, after all that, they were like, okay, so because there was no more Jim had multiple sons. However, his son Brian Henson, he was the one who was like, you know what? I think we got to do more with like the Muppets, because they had to like, they had to move on from it, because Jim wouldn't want them to keep sulking or whatever. They had to eventually move on. They found like replacements for all of his characters, notably Steve Whitmire, who replaced Kermit and a lot of his most beloved characters. And the point is, they were like, all right, we're making a new Muppet project. And then the idea from there was, okay, talented executive Bill Haber came to Brian and was like, you know what? Let's do a Christmas Carol, but with Muppets. Because the Muppets are characters you can very easily like place into different stories. And the film was sort of made as a tribute to Jim Henson, which I find really sweet. If you notice the opening credits, it's in memory of Jim Henson, and I believe another Muppet person, I forget. I'm really blanking on his name. Another guy. When I remember his name later, I'll bring him up near the end. But the point is, after all that, it all went through, and we have the Muppet Christmas Carol. And I like, just to be perfectly blunt from the beginning, I adore this movie. I like fucking love this shit. This is one of the favorite movies we've like ever covered on this podcast. I love it so much, but we'll get into that now. I've been doing a lot of talking. What do you think, Anthony?
Well, yeah, I have quite a bit of an attachment to this movie as well. I think it was like the first big thing that kind of appealed me to the Muppets. I remember enjoying it when I was younger, and when I rewatched it like 2 days ago, it was actually like even better than I thought it was, and it's just gotten better ever since that day. And now it's like a Christmas tradition for me to revisit it.
Oh yeah, same. I've watched this every Christmas for like a while now, and I love it. It's very obvious, but I think just to get into like, I already discussed the real history of it, but I think one of the greatest things this movie does that I tremendously applauded for is, so we have Michael Caine here, who is playing our titular Scrooge, right?
Yeah,
and Michael Caine, he is so good in this movie. And however, part of why he's so good, but part of why he is so good, right, Michael Caine, is, so when he came into, he got accepted the role as Scrooge. However, Michael Caine played this movie in a way that I think changed the entire tone, where he was like, you know what, I'm gonna be as serious as I can be. I'm gonna, to quote him, he acted as if there were no Muppets around him. He played this as if it was a completely straight adaptation of A Christmas Carol. And the thing with that is, it was like, you might think, I think there's an entirely different direction this movie could go. Where, maybe they play up, the comedy of it. It's like a stupid tongue-in-cheek thing where, like, all the ghosts, they're all, like, pre-established Muppets. They can be more like a comedy thing where everything goes wrong. Maybe, like, the Muppet Show. They did stuff like that, like parodies on the Muppet Show. They could go that route. But you know what? They didn't. They were like, you know what? We're gonna fuckle our buckle and make a genuine Muppet-like story here. And it's just a really good adaptation of A Christmas Carol. I don't know what to say. It's so good.
I haven't even seen much adaptations of A Christmas Carol in like film form, but I feel like it's like a good way to tell the iconic story, which is
it's so embarrassing. I think one of the I only seen like a couple others that are like random. It was like the 50s one. They did I've seen Scrooged with Bill Murray, which is entirely different. Fucking Spirited with Will Ferrell. And this is the most embarrassing. I've also seen A Christmas Karen,
Oh.
which is Christmas Carol, but it revolves around a Karen.
Oh god.
But moving forward, but yeah, that just I think that decision really makes this movie stand out because they like play it straight. In fact, this is one of the only Christmas Carol adaptations where they like directly will quote lines from the original book, and which is why they have Gonzo there who plays Charles Dickens, which is it's really funny casting.
Yeah,
I didn't
really
even
like
think about it until this video. Like, apparently, what they the whole thing behind that is they were like, okay, what Muppet would be the least fitting to be Charles Dickens? And they were like, how about we make him Gonzo? Which I don't even register as a joke in this movie because I've seen it so many times. But if you look at it from an outer perspective, it is kind of funny.
It is
It's
kind of
like,
weird that
well,
this
fucking, well, yeah, because
weird ass
you watch the earlier, yeah,
alien
you watch the
thing.
early, well, yeah, you watch the earlier Muppet movies, and Gonzo's like a lunatic. So it's like he's gonna be your Charles Dickens, and it's like, yeah, this is also the first movie that pairs him with Rizzo, which I really like. Like, apparently, I introduced him to add some levity to the movie, which I think if you watch it with that context, it makes a lot more sense because there are certain points where Rizzo's like, "Sorry, the story's getting too scary. I'm a hop out for a bit."
Yeah, 'cause he's kind
And
of
he just
a
fucking
pussy.
leaves.
Yeah, same. He continues
Really?
to kind of like. Yeah, this continues on into all three of these movies that we talk about. You know.
Yeah, this was like their whole like thing. Apparently, in the recent Muppet stuff, I don't know why, but they start phasing out Gonzo and Rizzo and switch it to Pepe the Prawn, who I'll talk about when we get to
I
Muppets
think
in
that
Space,
was.
which I think is really weird. I don't know. Well, what's the deal with Rizzo, man? Hashtag bring back Rizzo. I miss
Yeah,
him.
I think that was shown
But
in like the Haunted
yeah,
Mansion special. I randomly.
yeah, in Haunted Mansion, it was Gonzo and Pepe, when clearly, like, I don't know, Gonzo and Rizzo seem like the winning combination, you know.
Yeah.
It's really weird to me. But yeah, I love them in this movie. Like, they're not like our main meat. They're kind of just there as like, you know, Gonzo goes around, he sets up scenes, so we need like a guy, but he provides proper like levity. I think he's really funny. I like his like little bit slant. I love when Rizzo's tail gets set on fire. He's like
Then he
fucking dumps
falls
him
like
into the
through
bucket. Like
that water thing and gets literally
yeah,
frozen into a popsicle.
yeah, like the tail, not the rat. Like the tail, not the. It's
I
fun.
love that joke.
It's
Yeah,
great.
I like I
Yeah.
really like the music in this movie is phenomenal. I really
Oh
love
my
the
goodness, the
opening
music.
song. The opening
Oh,
song is probably one
mwah,
of my
mwah.
favorite songs. I've listened to it quite often, and I think it's a really
Oh,
good
like
song to set the tone of this character.
yeah.
And I think in
Oh,
general, the movie
Scrooge.
does a great job of establishing Scrooge as this like just
Yeah.
this huge asshole. And like a great scene in the movie is when they introduce his nephew, and I like seeing the contrast between him and Scrooge. And Scrooge is already like rich and quite wealthy compared to his nephew, who's much more poor, but yet is shown to be much more jolly, which is shown how like people who are rich can be much more burdened and continuing to make money because they've like adapted to this system in some way. So you could like understand Scrooge more as a character, and it's interesting to compare that contrast in some way. And I think that's what makes him more
Yeah.
interesting and
Yeah.
make his around more satisfying. So like that's another thing
Yeah.
I appreciate.
Yeah, I do appreciate that from a storytelling perspective. That's like neat. That's a lot of Christmas Carol stories do that, but I think it's really well done here. Like Michael Caine, I mentioned how good he is earlier, but I think what he really has is he has this innate ability to where he can be our crotchety, angry old man. Where you look at him and like they describe him, he's like Scrooge. He's like, "Hello, Mr. Skinflint. Hello, Mr. Green, the undisputed master of the underhunted deed." And like, you know, they do the whole thing. He charges
Yeah, it's a
folks
great
a
song.
fortune.
Might be my favorite song in the movie, if I'm being honest.
Well, I love a lot of those songs, but I don't know if I could pick one. But yeah, the point is they establish all that. So you get like they very visually describe you. This guy's a huge dick, which you need for obviously the beginning. But Michael Caine, he has this innate ability where he can be your nice he can play the crotchety like sinister old man, like when he does that glare at the end of the song. every day in every way, Scrooge is getting worse. And then they cut to his face, and it's like,
And then they all get scared
spooky.
away.
But then, but then at the end of the movie, like when they actually have to transition his arc, you see him. He's like this fucking jolly, innocent old man because Michael Caine is so good at pulling off
Yeah, it
both.
really
It's like,
shifts his over the story. His growth just feels very real, expressed through his
Yeah.
performance, and I like that a lot.
yeah, he's such a damn good job. It's like,
Yeah,
I think a really good thing they did do with his journey is, I feel like you see this in like cartoons and shows a lot of time. When shows do like Christmas Carol parodies or whatever, they'll like sub in characters they already have. You know, like to give an example, this is kind of random, but I don't know if you've seen it. They did this like Looney Tunes The Christmas Carol from like the mid 2000s where Daffy Duck is Scrooge. And for that, what they do is they get like fucking yeah. But for that, they get like random other Looney Tunes that already exist. Like for memory, Yosemite Sam is like Christmas like past, and then like for present,
I think
it's
I
like
might have seen
Speedy
that.
Gonzales.
I don't know. Might have been one
Yeah,
of the
yeah.
random Looney Tunes things I watched.
Yeah.
It was really
And
fun.
one of them is like Yosemite Sam. One of them is fucking I think Speedy Gonzales. And I don't know what the third one is. But point is, they use pre-established characters for their Christmas Carol thing. And I understand why you would like do that. How? Because sometimes it can be really funny. I think it like you get good potential out of that. However, it's like I don't know. I don't think that's like I don't know. I feel like you are able to take the story more seriously when you like are able to give it to like actual new ghosts. You know, like you got the Ghost of Christmas Past, who's it's kind of like one knock with the movie. The CG on her has not aged the best. It's
Yeah.
a little. I can look past it. I kind of, but
In general,
But then you got the Ghost of Christmas like present, who looks really cool, and the Ghost of Christmas Future is really spooky.
One thing I
They all
want
have
to
their
point
nice
out is
little-
like this is also kind of a compliment to the original Christmas Carol story, but I always liked how the Ghost of Christmas Future was always much more like darker compared to the others to show like the looming future of like how dark it could get in some way if like just kind of to show how harmful the ways the Scrooge is going for is it doing the way he's living that's like harming him. You know, I always think
that's really neat. Like all
and they
three of them.
execute that idea well here with the design.
Yeah, I think that's kind of something I like about all the ghosts. Like the Ghost of Christmas Past, we have is like a literal like child, which I think is supposed to like, and she's like very calm. I think it's supposed to represent, you know, the innocence of his past before it all went to like dust or whatever. And the Ghost of Christmas Present is like forgetful and like you know dopey or whatever. But that also fits too. It's like if you're like you live in the present, you can like. You know, you always are able to like have that optimistic mindset. And you're living in the present. You're like, this is when you can change and move better, which I guess is what Scrooge eventually learns. And then it goes to Christmas Future. It's ominous, and you literally don't see his face or anything, which represents this like you know ominous looming presence of the future. But also, you don't see him physically, so it's like no one's future is written yet. You know, you gotta see how it goes. You know. I think it's really cool how they like communicate all that. I love the Ghost of Christmas Present. He's such a fucking innocent little guy.
He's
Fucking
he's like
I love
dopey. He has a great song with and he's essential. You know, like I like when he teaches Scrooge in the end. And I also like everything going on with Bob Cratchit, which is probably one the emotional aspect of the movie with him and Tiny Tim and whatnot, with like being portrayed by Kermit and his nephew Robin. I think that's how it's
Kermit is like they do a good job of subbing and all the other like Muppet characters when like they have actual roles. The fucking I'm almost in like considering they built this entire movie around to rename the Christmas Carol character Fozziwig. That fucking pun drive the whole thing. But it's just funny. But
So
I
good.
like when they get some good bits. But that it makes sense, Kermit's our main guy. We're gonna sub him in as Bob Cratchit. But I think it fits his character very well. Kermit, he's like our our struggle. Really, Kermit's like our straight man slash everyman type, which you kind of have to have
Yeah,
for the Bob
he's
Cratchit
like that
role,
with
right?
like a lot of yeah, he's like that in the Muppet
Yeah,
movies,
you get
definitely.
that in a lot of Muppet products, and Kermit he perfectly fits into that because our whole thing is Bob Cratchit is like he's kind of a representative of like the everyman with the average family that Scrooge is like abusing in this specific situation. That's kind of supposed to be a representative of Scrooge's like usual outlook. He's like swindling and conning the everyman in this situation.
Hmm.
You get it. Kermit already has like a nephew type. You can make it to his like son in this, Tiny Tim. He's a Robin. Miss
Yeah.
Piggy's there. You got fucking. This isn't even really a criticism. I just find it funny. They're like, well, they have Robin already, but like they had to make up other children so that it fits. So we just have fucking like three identical looking pigs. Like, who the hell are you? Get out of here,
Wasn't there like
silly little.
two?
It was like two or three, I think,
There
but
was
like
a
not
there
like
were two pigs and one other Kermit, one small
yeah.
fellow.
The point
Yeah.
is, I just think it's kind of funny. They have to like invent a bunch of other kids, and I don't
Yeah,
even
that
think
are
any of them are
literally the
like.
same as the as Kermit and Piggy, but smaller, which is like the same thing with the two pigs. I remember them even
Yeah,
doing a gag of how Piggy gets both of them mixed up, which I found kind of funny.
yeah, oh yeah, I remember that. That's funny. But yeah, all that is like really like I think that's all really well done. I think
Yeah,
it's
I like
really
the
neat. Yeah.
Marley and Marley song. I like the
Ooh,
ending
yeah.
song. Just every song is good, honestly. This movie is a banger soundtrack. Might be my
Yeah,
favorite Muppet
I think.
soundtrack, to be honest.
Oh, I would 100% agree there. The thing with that though, for me, is see, you're not like. I think well, this movie obviously has a lot of like solace put on its like lyrical songs,
Yeah.
Scrooge, One More Sleep Till Christmas,
Oh
the
yeah, that
Marley
song's
song.
also amazing.
Uh, yeah, the fucking I'm trying to remember them all. The Love Is Gone, which there's some weird history of that one. Apparently, it was in theaters, but they cut it out of home video releases. Then they added it back when the movie got added to Disney Plus. It's a
Oh
whole
really?
thing. I don't know if I got rid of it. It's a nice song. It sounds really
Yeah.
good. And I think you could even play in the credits too. So it's kind of odd it was like even cut out. But yeah, suppose they have all those songs and they're all really well done stuff. But it's like I think a lot of the movie I just love like the orchestral is so good because the movie opens. First of all, the movie opens on such a nice note where it's like has that in memory of Jim Henson, like I mentioned, and I believe it also. God damn, I'm trying to remember the other guy. I feel really bad. I can't. I think it was yeah, and Richard Hunt, who if you don't know, he was the original voice for Scooter, and like he was a big part of the original Muppet Show.
Hmm.
So this movie also pays tribute to him. It's nice, but point is, so you open with that, but then you just get this like really really good orchestra where it's like da 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 da
Yeah, I
da.
love that
It's
jingle.
just how it feels like Christmas, but it just like it's so comforting and nice, and it gets you into that
And jolly,
headspace.
which is needed for a Christmas
Exactly.
movie, obviously.
I remember, fuck, I'll never forget this day for the rest of my life. There's this one time I was having like a random day or whatever, and I was like listening to music, and I hear this movie's like soundtrack randomly because I got an auto played. It wasn't even Christmas; it was like October or November, and I remember just at that moment, that movie's soundtrack just affected me so much emotionally. It was so weird. It's like having something just so nice and innocent was crazy at that
Hmm.
time. So I always remember it specifically. But really, it's so communicated so well. Like this movie has one of my favorite like soundtracks. Every song is just mwah. The Muppets are so good with like music. I think that's one thing that like it's kind of a given. You're like, well, it's the Muppets that has good music, but you really got to be like, so good in this,
Yeah.
and I think every song, like orchestral or otherwise, like it gets you into that nice mood. When it needs to be more depressing, it can create that like good atmosphere during like the future scenes, more sad scenes. So then when it's the end, when the music gets like upbeat and jovial, like Fuck, I could totally vault out all these movie songs right now, but I can't turn this into the singing hour. You know the thing, the thing, didn't end the strike with a
Yeah,
jarring family.
it's great.
But yeah, yeah, it's odd. It's like you got that like nice jovial at the end because you see the. I think a big point of A Christmas Carol is being able to get that contrast because you need to see how dark things could go. But now Scrooge has learned that everything. He knows the direction he should go. So you see how happy it can be. You need those low points and you need those high points. And this movie really communicates, like, which is, I guess, is a staple of A Christmas Carol as a story. But doing this Muppet version does that, like, so well. And it's like, I fucking love this movie, man. Oh, it's so good. And
Mhm.
then, oh my god, that
Yeah,
end song, you gotta be like I love like that end shot where they have Scrooge singing, and they do this pan out while they do like the love we found, and like they pan out to all the other
yeah, it's a
Muppets,
beautiful
and it
ending.
pans up to the oh my god, that part makes me like so emotional every time. It's so good, and then the credits music, yeah. I'm aware I'm rambling. I'm sorry, but I
It's
just fucking
fine.
adore this.
Yeah,
Oh, good.
a lot of stuff. Another thing I do like is while I don't think it's like what makes this movie great, I still think the snippets of humor are pretty good. Like I like all the interactions between Gonzo and Rizzo, like you said. I like the scene where they like latch onto Scrooge while the Ghost of Christmas Past takes him into the
Yeah,
portal, and they're just like, and I like how they're just never addressed by him ever because because they're the narrators of the story. I found that
yeah,
funny,
yeah.
and it's
Yeah, and
it's
that's
a funny
funny.
visual.
It provides a little, yeah. Well, it provides like a nice little like through line to it. It's not even just that they're like again, it's not the focus. They're nice snippets of humor. I like the flashbacks with Sam Eagle, one of my favorite Muppets, and
Yeah.
I like when they do the fucking party. Animal has to like he's playing like I think like just like a triangle or something, just like a tiny little thing, and he can't has to
Oh yeah,
hold
instead
back
of
all.
doing like the big ass drums.
Yeah, yeah, but then he lets out his big drum solo. It's like it's a great moment.
Yeah.
I love all that. It's a
Um.
great, nice. Yeah,
Yeah, I like another thing I found funny that's like another fun way of showing how cruel Scrooge is in the opening is just how he treats his employees and ruthlessly threatens the mice that work for him by like
yeah,
yelling at them and forcing to fire them if they don't do their work. And it's like, damn, this guy's an asshole. Not to mention another
I
thing that is shown
know.
about him is like when Beaker and the other science dude that I forgot his name. I
Yeah,
mean, there are so many Muppets. With
yeah.
what's
Bunsen is
Bunsen?
weaker.
Yes, Bunsen and Beaker. Yes, yes. And when they
Yeah,
enter
they're
asking
both
for
B's on
ch-
the confusion.
yeah,
Yeah,
and they enter the place, and then they ask for charity, and then Scrooge just doesn't give a shit. In fact, he donates money to get those people in homes because he pays his taxes. Like, damn, what an
yeah,
asshole. And then like his turnaround, giving away to charity, it's just very wholesome and natural, and it leads to like the perfect conclusion to this story that leaves you with the nice Christmas spirit. You know, everything about the turnaround is very natural. It's also expressed well through Michael Caine's performance. That's just like I said, perfect casting for Scrooge. You know, and it's just like a great
yeah,
retelling of
yeah.
a Christmas story, of a
Hmm.
Christmas Carol, not story. Yeah, it's just a
Yeah, yeah,
great,
Christmas Carol.
perfect retelling of
Yeah,
that in some way. And it's like one
yeah.
of
It's
the
funny you mentioned.
adaptations that I notice come to mind when people bring that up. Go
Yeah,
on.
for me, this is my like definitive like Muppet adaptation. Other definitely other ones that are really good. This is kind of the only always one that has sticked in my mind. It's to go back to that Bunsen Beaker scene you mentioned. It's funny they have a whole song that's cut out of the movie, which
Really?
I don't know if you know if you ever listened to the Muppets Christmas Carol soundtrack. They have this song called "Let Into Your Heart," where basically Bunsen's like everybody can change Scrooge, but so can you. And he's like trying to like explain to Scrooge, you gotta
I
change.
don't know if I've.
It's like a Steven Universe song, which I think that song sounds really good in isolation. It's good
Yeah,
on its own. However,
in the context of the movie, I don't
however,
think it would work that well.
Yeah, no, I agree. In the
I just think
context of the
like it would just
actual
like
film,
I don't know. I just prefer if it's like
yeah, I think in the context of the movie, it would be too jovial for that
yeah.
particular
I don't know
moment.
how I feel
This
about
movie,
people
again,
outright telling Scrooge to change. Like you
yeah, it
know.
sounds like a fucking. It sounds like the Steven Universe thing.
Oh
You can
God,
change.
change. You can make
Well,
him
yeah,
change.
yeah, it's like the Steven Universe song, low key. But yeah, no, I think I like that part's really. I like their bit at the beginning. It helps like
Yeah, I think it
establish.
works better with like Scrooge finding out the error of his ways by himself and finding instead of some people actively telling him. So I'm not sure if that song
Yeah,
would fit. Another thing I want to mention though is that I like this is another compliment to the Christmas Story, but also like the way this movie executes it is just like seeing Michael Caine's reaction to seeing so many people like benefit from his death and profiting off of like his own valuables and whatnot solely be and no one like showing any hint of remorse because how much of a dick he was. And I feel like that's like damn, that's sad. Like you understand how that happened, but like you also want to support him for like you can tell how sad he is and like especially coming after the Christmas present when he's finally like realizing the true meaning of Christmas through the ghost of Christmas present, which is a very like
yeah.
pleasant scene. But yeah, damn.
Yeah. It's like I say, the Christmas Carol story on a base really does thrive on having those highs and having those lows. So the fact that we get some of that, it's really damn good. I think it's such a good like retelling here.
I agree.
I'm not sure like the recast things. Robin, I think, was a good like person to like subconsciously put into that role of Tiny Tim, because Tiny Tim is a character you need to be like. It's kind of like, well, oh no, the child like dies, so it's like, well, that's kind of like I think one of my nitpicks with the Christmas Carol story is I never really understood the correlation in my head how like okay, well, Scrooge, he dies, which you could kind of infer, oh, he was like a bad like person, and when he does die, no one cares that he's dead. But I don't understand how that really leads to Tiny Tim's death like in universe. You don't really explain the connection of those like events that much, but like it still really is a good way to like I think it's really well done because it's like, well, Robin on the Muppet Show and all those other places, he was always kind of like the straight person, the one who's like, all right, you know what? Yeah, I was gotta listen to my Uncle Kermit. He's a sweet, innocent little guy. You already have the perception of him, and you need that for Tiny Tim. So it's like, bam. So then, like, Tiny Tim died, and it's like, whoa. That's when you know shit really gets real when you see his grave and you see Scrooge's. It's like, man,
It's a very
damn, that
emotionally
just
powerful scene with how they like build up. One of the saddest moments, man, is that when he sees like the big dinner and he's just coughing sadly while like the other family comforts him. That's just such a genius way of showing like and like they don't even outright tell the audience that he's sick or anything. They just like it's just such a subtle and nice way of doing that. Or like that he's like
yeah.
full of like illness and disease and whatnot. Anyways, I think I've said almost everything I've needed to say. Do you have anything else you want to say about
Uh,
it?
I am trying to think. I don't have a lot of additional notes. We went over stuff pretty solidly for the most part. Just a few. Just I've like gotten one or two additional things. One, I love the role that they were like, all right, we need a like Jacob Marley because he's from the original story. They're like, you know what, we'll do two of them. And we'll make him Statler and Waldorf. Like, oh my god, that's like brilliant casting. And then I get the where Marley, Avarice and Greed. It's such a good
Uh,
song. And
so
then sorry, yeah.
so I guess that was like I guess a reworking of the story in some way.
The original Christmas Carol story, it wasn't just it was just one of them. I think it's just Jacob Marley, and they're like, you know what, we gotta have two of them because like, well, Statler's the other perfect crotch of the old guy, so we'll put him in, which is actually I think that's the perfect casting. I don't know if but it's kind of weird. I don't know if you knew about this, but in the Mickey Christmas Carol version, for something goofy, is Marley, which is weird. That seems like
That's
an odd
really
cast.
weird, yeah.
I don't know, they're fucking goofy for that. It's kind
Yeah,
of, it's always been
goofy,
kind of
okay,
weird.
that's weird. Yeah, I
It's
don't
a,
know.
I don't know. Just finally, I just a little bit of a note. This is one of the first Muppet movies that I believe has like CGI usage, not on the Muppets themselves, and not like even just oh they're CGI like characters because I know that you watch the movie that's obvious, but I think was with the early Muppet movies they had things where it was like, you know what, we're gonna. Actually, I have one more thing after this, but point, they were like, they'd film the Muppets walking and talking around, and they'd be like, all right, we're gonna have to like use strings to get them out of frame. But for this, for I think a lot of it was for big scenes where Kermit's like moving around a bunch. You notice in the One More Sleep Till Christmas, he's like jumping and hogging around. I think what happened with that is the puppeteers were walking around, but they'd like CGI them out in parts, which I don't think you can tell. Actually, it looks very like naturally done. I just thought that was a neat detail. And also, final note, I swear, this is the first Muppet film to be done with Disney. However, it is not the Muppet film made while they owned like the Muppets. Because what happened was, if you knew, to get back to a brief thing, while Jim's final years, he was like, you know what? I can't like a lot of his like projects weren't going the best. He was like, you know what? I think the only way to get Muppets back on track again is I can't handle being the owner of the Muppets anymore. I'm gonna start selling the Muppets like to Disney, and there was gonna be this whole Disney deal, the Muppets by Disney, way before they actually did in the mid 2000s. This would have been like mid 90s, no, the late 80s or whatever, and they were gonna do a whole thing. Muppets were like gonna be a part of Disneyland, but unfortunately, the Henson's passing kind of put all that stuff into like a limbo period, and they only got the Muppets like rights in like 2004 is the year, pretty sure. But yeah, and then the point is Disney like distributed this movie as like sort of a fallout from that deal. However, they didn't own the Muppets yet, which is why the Muppets from Space is not a Disney film, which we'll get into when we get to
That
that one.
explains why I couldn't find it on Disney Plus.
Yeah, exactly. That's why you don't have that there. But yeah, that's my last note on it before we just get into ratings now.
Which I think I'm ready to, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm gonna give this film a solid 9 out of 10. It's an amazing movie and probably one of my favorite Christmas movies to watch every year.
I would give this a firm Brian 10 out of 10, baby. I adore this movie, and I'm like fucking probably my favorite Christmas movie. Top 5 for the podcast. I ain't even gonna lie. Just such a good movie. I adore this movie to death. And then Muppet Treasure Island exists.
Oh, yeah, no, we're just going to go right into it. Yeah, I guess we should. Anyways, yeah, Muppets Treasure Island. Yeah, I watched this a couple days ago. It was, I actually enjoyed it. You know, it was pretty solid. Not amazing, but.
So this one has much less like historical context to set up because you know there's much less of a gap. However, the gist of it, to be more simple, is like all right, Christmas Carol. People really liked it. It was another big hit. Like, whippy, the Muppets are back on track again, baby. We're back in the public eye. It was like, what are we going to do now? They're like, all right, well, we did Christmas Carol, which was like the adaptation of like a book, you know. It's like, how about we do another classic literary story? So they're like thinking of a couple different ones. And then like, I got it. We'll do the book Treasure Island. And they were like, that's a great idea, guys. So then we did, they made Muppet Treasure Island. And, yeah, this is, okay, Muppet Treasure Island is not a bad movie. And by my rating, I think it's pretty good. Yeah. However, I can't explain, I don't know. Coming off the last, that's definitely a big decline for me.
I think
Another main thing is it's weird. It's good.
Yeah.
It's a weird thing. It's weird. I have like a big attachment to every Muppet movie except this one. I've always been like, I saw it in 2021. I thought it was good, but I never went back to it until now. So it's like, well, do I like this movie that much? And on this rewatch, I was like, yeah, this is a pretty solidly written, solidly done Muppet film. However, even though Muppets from Space is worse, I think I enjoy that movie more. I don't know. We'll get to that when we get to that, but that's my perspective at least.
I
But
really, I'll admit, I think I like quite a bit of stuff about this movie, and I did have a good time watching it. I just didn't think anything about it was particularly that like amazing. To be honest, it was all just pretty good. I had a good time watching it.
I know what you're saying. Like, it's good, you
Yeah.
know.
One of
Nothing but
the yeah. So it's like an adaptation of the book Treasure Island. I know, like I know stuff like that Disney did an interpretation of the same story for Treasure Planet, which is a film I've never seen, which I do want to check out at some
Twitter
point.
is better than this, but yeah, it done their.
Yeah.
Mhm. It's
Um.
funny. My most like I don't even think this was my first exposure. The first time I'd ever heard of the damn Treasure Island story is because of the damn Simpsons episode Bart Gets an F because Bart does a book report on Treasure Island. I wouldn't even know it's like a real book then. But yeah, no. Then there was this and Treasure Planet, which are only. Oh, have you seen that weird fucking? Remember that like Russian Treasure Island from like the '80s? That weird movie. It was like a meme for a while. I don't know if you remember this. It's like a side.
We
I can like
search it
link this.
up.
Hold on. Yeah, so just look here. Remember this? The Treasure Island had the walking
Oh,
meme.
I think I've heard of this. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So I've actually seen this. It's a weird adaptation, but I think it's pretty funny. But that's besides the point. Point is, I can't really comment as much on how this compares to other adaptations because I don't care about Treasure Island as a story that much compared to fucking Christmas Carol. But I think it's like solidly done as a Muppet
Yeah, I
story.
like
We
I
have
like
Rocco and Rizzo back as narrators again, and
yeah,
they're
that's
fun.
cool. I really like Tim Curry as Long John Silver. He's
Oh,
such a
he's
joy
great
to
in it.
watch. Um,
Much like with Michael Caine in Christmas Carol, he steals the show as well. I think he's
yeah, he's
really
the
well done.
he's like the Michael Caine of this movie in some way. Tim Curry does a great job playing him. There's like a great attitude to his voice. I like his different pieces of his like crew and whatnot. And yeah, the story it's a good follows Jim Hawkins going on a journey to find some treasure left by this old pirate dude and his crew, and now his crew themselves, like former crewmates of his, are coming back to steal the treasure, and they're secretly hijacked the boat they're going on to find it. Then the captain's Kermit and Gonzo and Rizzo also join Jim on their journey, and they're still fun as per usual. I love the scene where they're getting interrogated by the bandits on the ship, and Gonzo's limbs are being ruthlessly stretched out. And then it's like it doesn't affect him
Yeah.
at all. It just kind of messes him up completely. I
Yeah.
thought that was kind of funny.
I've kind of tried to articulate why Muppet Treasure Island doesn't quite work for me as well as the other Muppet movies, and I can't quite put my finger on like exactly why. But I think the main reason I like think it's just good but not amazing for me is gee, I don't know. I think what I liked about Christmas Carol, as we described, is that despite being a Muppet thing where they easily could have gone a more comedic route with it, it was very rooted in being a serious adaptation. Michael Caine acted like it was like he was acting with like Shakespearean actors, like that's the exact quote he said, and that really benefited this movie. And it's not to say that Muppet Treasure Island is a comedy; it isn't, obviously. And I like the more serious elements with Tim Curry's like Long John Silver and like the Jim Hawkins. The I think their like dynamic is interesting, and they get like
Yeah.
interesting kind of like cool stuff out of that. However, this one definitely leans more towards the Muppety aspects, which don't get me wrong, I love a good Muppet like thing, but in this specific movie, I don't like it. I think it kind of negates my overall enjoyment of like the rest. I don't know, like some of the Muppety stuff in this, I'm not as into. Like the weird drug trip scene is like, eh.
Are you
And the
talking about the
songs are like,
Fever song or
yeah,
something?
the cabin fever, yeah,
I like
that
the
part's
some
like,
of the effects like that with like the wavy animation to show how everyone is losing their minds. I guess I don't know. The songs are
yeah,
pretty solid. I like the opening song.
yeah.
I like the song that Tim Curry and his
I like
crew
the visuals
sing.
of the opening a lot, actually, like the alligators, the whole thing. It creates this
Yeah,
nice like atmosphere Very
As per
calm.
usual, this is a thing for all Muppet movies, but I really like the cool puppet usage and all of this like
Oh yeah,
treasure
definitely.
setting that really works well for me, and I like all the different props and whatnot, and
Yeah, I
all
like
that fun.
the giant ship. I like like how the giant ship has like Statler and Waldorf on the side of it,
Yeah,
and
I
that's
like
like
that.
a
They even
cameo in the
have
movie.
plot relevance by the
Really
end of the
funny.
movie.
Yeah, yeah, it's cool.
Yeah.
I call
Uh-huh.
that.
I
It's
wasn't too familiar with like the original Treasure Planet story, but like, it's a pretty predictable twist with Long John Silver, turning on
he
Jim
was
and
a
killing
bad
him, and
guy.
he was
Ooh.
the man with the one leg that the guy warned him about. Uh-oh. And yeah, he's a good
Whoa.
villain. I'm kind of, I enjoy his character. I enjoy his attitude. He's definitely the star of the show here. I also like one of the funniest scenes in this movie for me is the scene where his crew decides to turn against him because they couldn't find the treasure, and then they try to tie him up and kill him. And then since his crew are a bunch of idiots, he just convinces them that like that they're that they're gonna that they're disrespecting and that him and some like Satan and stuff, and he's like, and it ends up like tricking them, and they just fall under his control again. Like it's like
Yeah.
right after they gave him the death sentence using a Bible page. Yeah, that's what it was. Yeah, that
Yeah.
was funny. I like that scene a lot. Uh, um, what do you think? I don't know. There's some cute little stuff. I like the stupid gag of Fozzie talking to his finger, his thumb. That's a cute little gag. Not the
Yeah.
funniest thing, but it's cute. It's a cute
Okay.
little movie right here.
Uh, yeah, it's okay.
Yeah, I like the
Um,
cinematography a lot. I think it looks like has a
yeah, no,
nice
it's definitely very well shot. I didn't really bring it up much of Christmas Carol. That's a beautiful looking movie, like how it's like all framed and shot. And Brian Henson, well, he's the son of Jim, literally. So I guess that kind of runs in the genes. I guess he does a really good job with this. Just ignore the fact that he directed the Happy Time Murders like a couple
Oh
decades
God,
later. That
I haven't seen that, but
uh,
at that based off of just looking at the poster, this movie doesn't seem that
the
good.
tagline is "No Sesame, All Street," and that
Oh
tells you
God.
everything.
Yeah, yeah, that basically summarizes the entirety of the movie, it seems. Yep.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
there is stuff.
Mm.
What did you think of the plot with Kermit and Miss Piggy in this? Because for
Yeah.
me, it felt like it didn't feel like
For
it
me, it
added
felt
too
like
much.
I don't know. I don't know if this is just me, but I felt a little jarring with like the other stuff. Like,
Same.
I really like. See, I really like what this movie does with like Long John Silver and like Jim Hawkins. It's not like outstanding, but like it's solid little stuff that like gets like you like
Yeah, it's not like
invested
the
in like
most
the
developed
movie.
thing, but like I think I could
Yeah,
understand
not
that
the most of it, but
relationship
I think
quite
it's like a.
well.
It's I don't know. I don't know. Kermit's fun in this movie, like he always is, but I don't know. They bring the piggy stuff into it, and it's like, I don't
It's
know. They have this part near the end where they're both like on the
hanging off a
egg.
cliff. I'll admit that the funniest part of that scene is when Kermit's trying to save Piggy, and the look on his face is pretty funny. So
Yeah,
yeah,
it's
there's
very
some fun
that
expressions in this movie.
I'll get like good things out of like Kermit's like face distorting. That's kind of a
Yeah.
weird thing to point out. He
Hmm.
looks funny, good
Yeah.
little guy. It's fun.
Uh huh.
I don't know about you. Like, the songs in this movie are like solid, but I don't remember them as much as the
Yeah, I don't.
other
I don't
Muppet
think so.
movies.
Because with Christmas Carol, I remember a lot of epic beats and just stuff
Yeah.
in the soundtrack.
Granted, I've seen that movie more times, so it gets that benefit. But even like otherwise, still, it's like,
Yeah, it's still a solid soundtrack and it's still a solid movie. It's just not like anything I'm all that passionate about, but and yeah, I like the I like the pig tribe. That was kind of funny. I don't know why. I kind of like that. um
hmm.
uh there's not too much I have to say about this movie. It's a pretty simple
Yeah.
movie.
To
Not
be
much
honest,
even like
like I think the before and after movies of this are really fascinating. And like I said, I don't know. I really don't even have much solidly against Muppet Treasure Island. It doesn't even do much wrong. I
Yeah.
don't know, all that into it really. It's like never been able to properly articulate it. I guess it just really just maybe I just have unfair expectations based on like the other two. But it does everything it needs to do solidly enough. I like all the Muppety stuff is generally funny. Like with Christmas Carol, I like where they sub in like certain characters. It's fun.
Yeah.
Fozzie gets little, Herman gets a little thing. Even like miscellaneous ones get some stuff. Although not as much as like other like Christmas Carol subs in a lot of people. I don't remember that as much with like this one,
Hmm.
but
I know the Blue Eagle, which I forgot his name. I know I don't remember all the Muppet names.
And
Like,
go. Mm,
yeah, for
yes,
him.
and yeah.
Mm. Yeah, the Eagle, Mr. Arrow, who plays Mr. Arrow in some way. I think he did a good job. I like the random scene when they're calling on a bunch of random crewmates, and one of them, I think I have the the specific line written down. Let me check.
Mhm.
Um, yeah, they were like calling up different crewmates, and one of them's name was Big Fat Ugly Bug Faced Baby Eating O'Brien, and then there's just this girl with a very deep voice, and I'm it's just such a
Yeah,
random act.
I
I
remember.
found that kind of funny.
Yeah, I remember that joke. Yeah, it's good.
Yeah,
It did it.
I don't know why that.
Mhm.
I just remembered that joke specifically making me laugh. And yeah, it's just kind of a pretty good movie. I wish I could elaborate more of what I like about it. And there really isn't much I dislike.
Yeah,
Like the story is pretty simple, just a simple treasure hunt
yeah.
story with some fun characters, I guess, and interactions and such. Some very cool puppetry and designs that are good. Tim Curry is good. Uh, it's
Hmm.
just a pretty good Muppet movie, but it's not like an
Yeah,
amazing one, I guess.
yeah. The only joke I like distinctly remember is when someone dies and Rizzo says, "He died? This is supposed to
It'll
be
be
a
a kids
kids
movie. I
movie."
remember that. Yeah,
Yeah, okay, yeah. It's
yeah,
kind of a cheap fourth wall break compared to what other Muppet stuff does, but it is
yeah.
funny.
That was cute.
And the joke later where Forrest walk onto the set of Muppet Treasure Island.
Oh
It's like
yeah, the
that's
mouses.
yeah,
I forgot there were the mouses that Rizzo let on the ship, so now they're just like
yeah.
randomly
It's
touring the scenes
just
of
a
the movie.
stupid joke.
Yeah,
I think it's
yeah. I don't know. I guess the concept of Miss Piggy running a tribe of wild pigs and her trying to communicate with them was kind of funny. I don't know.
mhm.
I don't know. Honestly, as soon as we introduced the pigs, I immediately knew what was going to happen here. Because, like, I knew Miss Piggy was in this movie. I just didn't know where she would be implemented. And I'm like, oh, this is where she's
Yeah,
going to show up. And I was
didn't you
right.
so?
And honestly, her inclusion
Yeah,
only adds, like, one main thing to the story. And it's just kind of showing where the treasure is for the pirates. And yeah, honestly, Tim Curry is
yeah.
just the best part of this movie. He's definitely like my favorite part of it, and like all the other stuff is good. I think Jim Hawkins is a pretty solid protagonist. He's a typical hero. Not anything amazing about it, but he
Yeah.
works for what it is, and his interactions with Long John Silver feel both like you could tell he's manipulating him, but there's also a part of it that feels kind of genuine in the way he's like talking to him, dialogue wise.
Yeah.
You know.
One more thing on the production, yeah. One more thing on the production side of things I just found that I find pretty interesting. So apparently, Frank Oz, who you'll know for being Fozzie, Miss Piggy, a lot of like famous Muppets. He apparently like scheduling conflicts arose, so he wasn't able to perform his characters for most of this movie. However, so they got Kevin Clash, who you may know as the puppeteer behind Elmo. He is the one who performs all of his characters in this movie, and Frank Oz just added his voice in post production, which I did not know that, but that's quite interesting. Which makes sense to be honest. Around the late '90s is when Frank Oz started around that's when he started distancing himself from the Muppets and started doing stuff like outside of that. I think Muppets from Space, or what I think is his last Muppet movie or something around then. So I guess that's something to note. I guess I just thought that was interesting. More
Yeah.
behind
Um,
junk.
what was it? What was I gonna say? Uh, I like the, I like how the ending of the movie with how it concludes Jim and Long John Silver's relationship, with it ending on like a bittersweet note with him eventually drowning, and it's a kind of a sad conclusion with him running away with all the treasure and then getting his comeuppance afterwards. I heard that the ending of Treasure Planet ended on a more like pleasant note, which I think it's an interesting interpretation of the story. I'm not sure how the original Treasure Island story does this ending, but just thought it was worth bringing up. I like how that's concluded. I enjoy that. Yeah, I wish I could
Mhm.
say more, but this is one of those movies that I just kind of think is pretty good, with quite a bit of aspects to enjoy. And I overall had a pretty good time with it, but it's just a pretty solid, charming movie. I can understand if someone doesn't think it's amazing, but overall, it's a solid little film. I
Yeah.
Yeah.
Uh, Want to get into ratings now? 'Cause I don't have much like else we can. I don't want to drag
Yeah,
it
I don't
out too
really have too
much.
much else. I'm gonna give this a solid 7 out of
Yeah.
10, It's not amazing or
Yeah.
anything, but it's still a pretty good movie with enough good
Yeah.
aspects to make me enjoy it. So,
I
yeah.
give this like a low seven. Honestly, I don't. I like. I seem lukewarm on it because like it's technically a good movie. I just don't have much that would make me go back to it personally. I don't know. I don't know how to explain my Muppet Treasure Island disconnect, but I've always had this, and I can't quite articulate why. But yeah, high six, low seven's my current spot. But anyway, enough about Muppet Treasure Island. It's time for Muppets
From space,
space,
baby. Let's
maybe
go.
I'm Muppets in from because they never actually go to space. You notice
Yeah,
that
that's true.
Muppets from
Yeah,
those
Muppets.
called
Actually,
Muppets from
technically,
space.
only one of the Muppets are from space, and then the other
Exactly, I
ones
was
are
gonna
from
note that. That was weird.
Yeah.
But anyway, so once again for this right, I don't think there's actually much interesting like technical notes for this one, except for just like with Treasure Island, Oz was unavailable, so his characters Animal, Miss Piggy, and Fozzie and Sam Eagle were performed by other Muppets. But yeah, so it was like the original script was right, inspired by so Gonzo has that song in the original Muppet film that I think is one of the film's best songs. I'm going to come back there someday, which explains really, his sort of what's the word? His sort of like unknown like origins where he knows he's like from somewhere, doesn't know where,
Yeah.
gives him some sort of like I think it adds a lot to his character because Gonzo is such this outwardly goofy character, so that they give him this really personal moment in the first film, I think is really
I love
interesting. As
that
that's one,
moment. I love that
yeah.
song.
But anyways, the point is, now they're like, all right, how about we actually explain
What
Gonzo's
Gonzo
backstory?
is.
Which,
Yeah, and he's
which I
anyway.
that has always been a sticking point of this movie for me. I'm like, did you need to do that? I don't know. Did you? The point is, that's where the original idea came from Kirk Thatcher. And yeah, afterwards, the film Muppets from Space came together. Notably, again, not with Disney, however, despite owning the Muppets, they do not own this movie. They instead went to Columbia Pictures, which I don't know the exact reason why. I don't know if
It's,
I don't know if there's any real legal reason. I guess they just wanted to mix it up. Keep you Muppets Take Manhattan is also not technically Disney, so I don't know what happened there. Because I think
yeah.
some technical things. Those other ones were just from the Jim Henson Company, but this one is like partnership with Columbia. But that's besides the point. Muppets from Space is a very weird
It
movie, and
is
I kind of
very
love it.
bizarre. I
However,
kind
it
of
is
love it too, if I'm being honest.
yeah, such an odd
It's a
movie.
fun movie. I had a
I
great
like,
time watching it, despite how I have quite a bit of issues with it, and I don't think it's a great movie by any means, but it's like I don't
I
know.
would not say
It
so.
revolves around Gonzo, like he's an alien. He is wondering where he comes from. And then, like through weird ass shenanigans, such as a cereal just randomly rearranging into the words, into like words that tell him to look at the sky or something. And then that's how the entire plot starts. And I don't even think they explain how that works, but like, I'll let it slide, I guess. But yeah, so, anyways, there's just a bunch of alien messages around the world. And then meanwhile, this villain general guy is like trying to prove that aliens exist. And like he shows like this general guy all these
Yeah.
messages, and he's like, "That's not real. That's fake. You're crazy." And I feel like his problems by
Aliens.
the middle of the movie, I feel like the guy's issue in proving aliens are real could be so easily resolved, especially when Gonzo is showed on TV in front of multiple witnesses. Like you could easily prove to
Mhm.
the general that he's real, which I feel like is supposed to be his motivation. Since it doesn't even seem like he cares that much on like this dissecting Gonzo. Like if he's an alien, it's kind of weird and dumb, but like yeah. Oh
Yeah. I don't know about that. I don't know. The thing Muppets from Space, it just a lot of I like a lot about it. I think it has really funny bits, and
yeah.
just like with all Muppet films, there are like technical aspects I really like. However, a lot of I think story wise, this movie is not that good. It's very messy. I think ultimately that comes down to Gonzo's character in this. Just to explain, so Gonzo is not one of my like. I wouldn't call him my favorite Muppet. That's kind of a loaded question. It's hard to pick one. But Gonzo, he's always been a character I find interesting, as I discussed with his scene in the first Muppet film. I think it's really good. But in this one, right? It's like I don't know this whole thing where it's like, well, Gonzo knows what he is, and it's like, well, first of all, I think that makes him less interesting because it's like, well, I don't know. It's kind of fun. You can imagine what Gonzo is. He can be whatever the hell you want. You don't know. But also, it's like this whole movie hinges on Gonzo being like he doesn't feel like he belongs because every other member of the Muppet has family, but Gonzo
He has
really doesn't.
nothing
How?
because
Yeah,
because
he
no one
doesn't
knows
have
who he
anything.
is or what
Yeah,
he
and I
is.
think the thing with that is I don't think for me that doesn't play with Gonzo's character that well because it's like well, and I know Muppet movies don't have continuity. In fact, the way this movie works, I think, is very confusing. All the Muppets just live in like a house or
Yeah,
something.
that's
I
what
don't
I
know.
was
It's odd.
wondering. I was like, the Muppets just
Yeah,
all live in one house somehow. And
yeah,
the
yeah.
entire
This one-
opening. Well, I think the opening of this movie is like charming and cute with like
Oh,
all
I
the
find the
Muppets
opening
having
so
fun.
stupid. Like the fucking the oh, I think we're talking about the Bible opening, the Ark,
Oh no, no,
Gonzo's
that
life.
yeah, that's dumb. The
Not that.
Noah's Ark. I'm talking
I
about
do
the
like that opening you're talking about though. Like they
yeah,
play.
the Noah's Ark
That
thing
just led
that
to
they
another
do is
thing. This movie is
kind of
yeah
funny. I found that kind of funny with
yeah.
like how
I love
how
fucking
he just
Gonzo's
gets
pathetic scream
rejected.
after.
No. I
It's
found
just
that was
sad.
actually funny with him getting rejected from Noah's Ark. I don't know. I thought that
Yeah,
was weirdly funny. Anyways,
yeah,
yeah, there's a lot of weird ass moments. Like one of the funniest thing is that Rizzo is just randomly allowed to go with Gonzo to the institution where they're gonna like dissect him and whatnot. And what's weird about that
yeah.
is that like I noticed that when he was leaving, he was his translator, but like they could understand Gonzo fine, so I guess they just let him go come along regardless. And then he ends
Let the
up in
rat
this
along.
yeah,
Yeah,
I love the rat
I guess it
prison
just.
thing with how the rat
Oh my
is the
god, that
bad
part's so
thing. That
stupid.
is so.
The
What's so
fucking
funny about
rat's
that is
so
that the
funny.
scientist who runs that acts like a freaking prison guard, and it's so funny.
Oh yeah, I love that
He
too.
takes such a mileage out of torturing these rats that it's honestly really funny. Like,
It's funny. I feel like this movie was like those scenes specifically feel like excuses just to have Rizzo in the movie. They're like,
yeah,
well, people love Gonzo and Rizzo, so we might as well just like flow them together.
yeah, the
And
roommates were
Rizzo's
misfits.
still funny in this movie. I like him a lot.
Yeah, I
He's
like his
a cool little guy.
interactions. Like I said, everything with him doing the rat stuff was funny. I just like how they
Yeah,
treated this rat dissection thing as like a rat testing lab thing as a prison, which with the
yeah.
scientist being such a brutal guard. I don't know. That was
Yeah,
funny to
I
me.
think yeah, I know Gonzo though. I tried getting earlier, we got a little sidetracked. But I don't know, I think the whole thing is he doesn't feel like he like belongs. But I don't know. I think another big part of that is Gonzo doesn't strike me as the type of character who would care about that kind of thing for multiple reasons. Like one, the whole thing the movie comes to is like Gonzo's like, well, you don't need your other family because they left Gonzo. The real family was the Muppets all along. That's a sweet message, and I like what it's doing there. However, I feel like that's something Gonzo could have like come to on his own. I don't know. Like, come on, guys, it's
Yeah,
not
he just kind
not
of
that difficult.
randomly comes back to it by the end of the movie, and it's like,
Yeah,
I
yeah,
found
and
my
also,
family now, but then I'm like, oh wait, but my Muppets are my real family, even though I found my, I don't know, it's weird.
yeah, and it's just kind of weirdly done. I like what they're setting up there. I like that one scene where like Kermit's like, I don't know, I don't know
They
what's going
believe
on.
you,
But,
but you're
if
gonna
Gonzo
come
wants to
back.
do
That's
this, then
nice.
we'll do it. Because
Yeah.
it's sweet, but also for what was I saying? Also, I just don't think Gonzo doesn't seem the type of character who would care that much. Because see, Gonzo, if I know these movies don't have continuity, but Gonzo like thrives on being the whatever or the weird thing. He
Yeah.
kind of like embraces being the weird one of the group. So to have Gonzo in this movie be so like self conscious or like I don't know, to me, it always struck me as a weird bit of characterization that I've never really been a huge fan
Yeah,
of.
that's
I don't
fair
know about
enough.
you. That's kind of it's for me. It's always been like a sticking point of this movie for me, even if I like aspects of it. Speaking of
Okay,
sticking
that's
points
fair.
with this movie, though, you want to talk about the fact that there's no fucking music?
Oh yeah,
Where to
there's no
go?
musical. Yeah, that's
Where are the
fair.
Muppet songs?
I don't
And
know,
it's super weird because all these other Muppet movies have music. This one doesn't. This one instead opts for licensed songs, which I will give credit isn't as unnatural as you think. Because if
yeah.
you watch the Muppet Show, that's kind of a show built on like they always used licensed music or songs Jim Henson
Yeah, they
liked
even
every
played
week to
the
get
that one
like the whole
song
thing.
from Robots with the "Get Up Off of That Thing"
Yeah,
and
yeah, yeah. They also play okay. The only time the music really took me out is during one part they play the "Celebrate Good
that part
Times,
is so
Come On."
funny to me. I don't
The
know.
part that's so unnatural to me. I don't
Yeah,
know,
like
but they like
Gonzo's aliens just enter and they all just and everyone's just partying, having a great time. But then the villain shows up, and honestly, you just kind of feel bad for the villain since this poor guy just wants to be taken
yeah, yeah.
seriously and get people to stop laughing at him. But hey, good for him. He
Oh
ends
my
up
God,
being
this is
the
one part where he
ambassador
like
for
yeah.
like I don't know. He
There's one
wants.
part where mhm. The other part like he's like yelling and there's like I go, "Do not laugh at me." It's so
It's so
stupid. I
weird.
love
It's
that
like
part.
I don't know. It's like it's kind of funny, honestly, but it's like it's kind of sad. But hey, he gets to just for some
Yeah.
random reason, I guess, despite him literally threatening Gonzo. The Gonzo's family's all like, "Hey, what if you're the ambassador of our entire race?" And I'm like, "What? What?" It's weird. It's a weird fucking movie. I guess they said it because he was funny that they made him the entire ambassador of like the planet and just ignored the
Yeah.
fact that he was
That's
trying
another
to.
weird thing with this movie. Like, I like it, but I can't tell how many of its jokes I genuinely like and how many of them I just like for how bizarre they are. Because there's so many weird bits in this movie. Like, out of the whole visual of like the cereal coming to Gonzo through like his like the aliens message him for that. I find that super
Yeah,
weird.
and then the
The villain,
aliens somehow message him through a talking sandwich as well.
yeah, yeah.
It's so
Well, oh
bizarre.
my God, the sandwich scene is so weird. The Gonzo's goddamn talking to his
Sandwich
sandwich.
in
It's such a
prison,
weird
yeah.
visual. And then he tells us that you can eat me. Then
Yeah,
like
that's
disappear.
such a. Yeah, it's an awkward scene. And then you also get the
Yeah.
bear henchman, which I kind of like.
Oh yeah. This is the first appearance of Bobo, the bear, who you may notice comes back in Muppets 2011, where he has his most prominent role. But he was first
Yeah.
introduced here, and I will, or I think this or those the '90s Muppet Show, Muppets Tonight. I think he might have been there first. One of those. The point is, after this was something that was real prominent, so they added him in. And this is also the first appearance of Pepe the Prawn,
Oh
famous
yeah,
other. And
yeah.
he's all right. To be honest, I much prefer Rizzo to him, but he's still fun. I like when they get the three of them
I
together.
another thing I like. Another weird thing I want to point out is that the entire plot of this movie happens because Rizzo and Pepe tricked Gonzo into building a jacuzzi. If you really think about it, the entire plot
Yeah,
happens because of that.
stupid jacuzzi, and it's weird. They know that they call back to it near the end. Like the final line of the movie is Gonzo being like, "Why did the aliens want me to build a jacuzzi?"
Yeah,
And Pepe chuckles. And I'm like, "Oh, that's
that
cool."
was it's a kind of
Really?
funny joke, but it's weird that that's the entire plot because if they didn't ask Gonzo to build a jacuzzi, then he would have never connected to the news station, and he would never have gone to the news station and gotten captured by the government agency, which is the reason the whole plot happens and the reason he talks to the sand. It's a whole. It's basically the entire reason the conflict of the movie happens, all because of Pepe and Rizzo wanting Gonzo to build a jacuzzi for them, which
Yeah,
is really weird.
it's really weird.
And kind of dumb.
But
But this
what
movie
was it
is
gonna?
dumb premise wise. With like, I mean, yeah, kind. It's like I don't know, like Gonzo. I don't know. I don't know if I could take Gonzo's arc that seriously, especially with like how goofy the opening is. So
Hmm.
like, yeah, just
See,
from
I
there, it's
want
like
to like Gonzo's arc in this movie
yeah, because Gonzo's
because it's
such a
like
silly little guy, you know, just a silly
I
little
love Gonzo.
jokester.
He's a cute little guy, but I don't
Yeah,
know.
and he still
I
like
just feel like
signs that here, I guess, and like sure he has his emotional moments
I
like
don't
in
want
the
to say this
first,
movie
but
goes against Gonzo's character because that's not
eh,
true. He still like, is mostly act the
yeah,
same.
he's still the
His
same
arc,
character.
just his arc, I think is just still really odd, and I don't know
Yeah,
how to feel
it's
about
something I'm
it.
a bit mixed on too, and it doesn't like progress amazingly either throughout it, you know. But it's still like
Yeah,
it's not a terrible arc. There's nothing like inherently that awful about this movie, so like yeah.
no, not really. I think there's some weird decisions and some weird like parts. The one I think the thing that confuses me most is well, aside from some specific bits, like I don't know. There's one part where Gonzo's like drives a tractor in the middle of the night to like
Oh
build a
yeah,
UFO
to
symbol.
build yeah, that was so
Seems
weird.
fucking whack.
Yeah, and
And then also, but then the main like there, yeah.
I also like the scenes with Gonzo losing his mind after he gets electrocuted. I think the performance of the
Oh
actor
yeah,
was funny. I like Gonzo's voice,
yeah,
by the
yeah,
way. I thought that would be a funny thing to bring up.
yeah. No, he's great. Props to David Gould's
Yeah.
classic Gonzo performer.
Yeah, it
But
all peaked with the Gonzo scene in Muppet, the Great Muppet Caper, when he jumped onto the street trying to hold a taxi. That still cracks
oh
me
my
up
god, I
today.
forgot about that's such a good bit. But
Yeah.
yeah, where was I? Another thing out of this movie, not even just Gonzo, they have this B plot with Miss Piggy where she really wants to get on the news.
Oh
It's
yeah.
very oddly played. I feel about it. It's
Yeah.
like
Yeah, she even
I think
has
it's
this
weird
weird
how Miss
fight scene with one of the government agent guys. I noticed that.
yeah. I think Rob Schneider's in that scene.
Oh
It's
yeah,
really
Rob
no, during
Schneider
one of
is
the
in this movie. Yeah, he's like the
he's a
news
really
one
weird.
of the news
Muppets
guys.
have always had weird cameos. The fact that Rob Schneider's in this is like it's a
Yeah,
little weird. This
yeah.
Everyone in this movie is wacky too. Apparently, I don't know. You wouldn't have known this, I don't think at all. But for some reason, this movie is technically a crossover with the late '90s show Dawson's Creek. You would not know this, but this is one part where, like during like the end thing when they're trying to find when they're waiting for like well like, there's a celebration for people waiting for the aliens. They're like these teens, right? And then Pepe walks up to them and starts like trying to riz up this one. Apparently that was like it's supposed to be the characters from this show. I know nothing about Dawson's Creek. I just think it's weird
Oh
that the Muppets
yeah,
is
that scene. Yeah, I was confused by that scene. I was like, is that a
yeah,
ref?
that scene.
What is that? That's like a
It
reference to
is
something. What does that mean?
no, literally, it's sort of like a crossover, which is super weird to me. That this Muppet movie is technically connected to this late '90s teen drama show.
Yeah, I don't
What
know
are you
how many
doing?
people watching this movie would get that reference because I didn't even
When,
get
yeah,
that
no one
reference.
watches now, and I don't even think most people know what Dawson's Creek even is.
I've heard
So
of
it's
it,
like,
but I've never I didn't fully understand the reference. It was just such a weird
well,
cameo
that
thing.
reference ain't gonna like land for people now. So that's my whole
Yeah,
point.
that's fucking
It's
weird.
really weird. I don't know. There's also like just a bunch of references in the movie that are weird. Like Muppets always like do that. Like they're rooted in pop culture, so I don't mind references. But some of them are weird. Like this one that always stuck with me because me and my cousin who I watched this movie used to quote this a lot. Where Miss Piggy does a fourth wall break and mentions British journalist Ted Koppel. Does anyone know who that is?
Is that a
That
real
line's always stuck
person?
in. Yeah, apparently, yeah, I know nothing about this actually. Josh, if you're listening to this, you're British. You know who Ted Koppel is? But anyway, it's like I don't even know. This guy's some fucking 80-year-old British journalist. Like,
I don't
who's gonna
even
get that
remember him.
reference?
I don't even remember that reference. I think I
I
know
remember
who
that
he's
line because it's so like ingrained into my brain. Like, I think Ted Koppel ever
That's
like
kind of
does this
funny.
stuff. Like,
I think I
it's
remember.
like, well,
Actually,
who
I
is?
think I remember her referencing. Like, I don't remember. Oh,
Yeah.
I think I do
Uh,
remember, kind of. It's like a
Yeah,
very.
it's when like Piggy's walking away from like the news or whatever, which again is
Oh
a
yeah,
very
I think
awkward
so.
like yeah, which
Yeah,
is
those are
an
two
odd
weird
thing.
ass
Is
references in this movie. I don't know why they would
yeah.
include that. It's
So I
kind of
wouldn't have thought of this on my own, but Piggy is really weirdly characterized in this movie because well, if you notice, I remember I watched a review of this movie a while ago, and I was like, oh yeah, why doesn't that happen? Because she gets them a device that a mind controls people in this movie to do whatever she wants. And for some reason, Piggy never uses this on Kermit, even though that would be like a million times in character for her. I wouldn't know. I don't know if you thought of that, but I just thought it was weird.
yeah, that would have
Like, you
made
know,
sense
I
for
don't
her
know.
probably. Yeah,
Would have been, yeah, but I guess we get that scene where she brainwashes the guards. I guess I
yeah,
don't
the
know. When
guard. I
the
think it was.
typical break-in, which I think is fun scenes, but it's like I don't
Yeah, they
know.
used the
Like,
invisible
it's
spray, and then Animal chases a woman, and then the woman it comes back in another scene and is now fall in love with Animal mysteriously.
that joke is so weird. I don't even
I
understand.
don't know,
I
it's such
remember
a
on my
bizarre
first viewing,
joke.
I was genuinely so bewildered. Like, what? What is
What?
that?
What did
What is
Animal
that?
do? Yeah,
It's
it
just
was.
so odd.
Yeah, this movie's
I
weird, but I
don't.
kind of love it because of that.
I
Yeah,
would agree on that front. Though it's
yeah,
just
yeah.
so weird. Yeah, I don't know. That whole setup. I kind of like the setup for that, where it's like Bunsen and Beaker just introduce all this like stuff. So like, but also it's kind of like yeah, they set up this so it can be used later. This so it can be used later. I like when they like, for some reason one of them is door in a jar. That's
Yeah,
how they
it's
use to
just kind of
escape.
funny. Yeah, yeah,
It's
I like
funny.
that.
And I got it's such a stupid joke. I like when Fozzie's like, yeah, "Is this an invention?" And it's like, "No, that's tape."
Just
It's
tape.
your
Yeah,
random
it's
like.
I don't know. I like
It's
Gonzo's
just
stupid
it's
little
such a
jokes like that.
stupid
It's
joke, but
cute.
it's funny.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't
Mm,
know. Yeah, it's a fun movie. I had a good time watching it. If I'm being honest, the whole thing with
it is,
Gonzo's ancestor showing up and just blasting music, and then like
yeah.
I don't know. I thought that
I
was
don't like that. The climax I think is a little like generic though. Not like not actually not that's the right word. But the point is when they do the thing where it's like, oh no, they didn't show up,
and then
and then they
everyone
don't
starts
believe.
leaving, but then they just immediately show up as soon as that happens. Like you'd
No, no, no,
expect a little pause,
oh my
but
god.
like yeah, it's kind of
Yeah,
weird.
no, I'm glad I don't dwell too much on it. This is one joke
Yeah,
I
but it's
find
still
really
kind of
funny.
weird that they just
But like,
show up right after
yeah,
everyone burns down their signs and shit.
yeah, man, there's one line there that I fucking love where the guy like does this thing, and where the guy there he's about to leave, and one guy's like, "Man, I didn't study for like." He says he like didn't study for like his
Bro didn't study
exam.
for his own exam because he was just so hyped by Gonzo the alien.
They were also enthralled. Also, if you look in the, this is random, but I recommend looking in the background of that scene. You can see a bunch of random guys wearing Gonzo merch, and it looks really stupid.
I didn't.
Although
I didn't look in the background of that scene.
you should, this is one particular guy who looks really funny. He has like this Gonzo cap on. If I find the exact screenshot,
I think I
that
remember
like
like a Gonzo like sculpture made of mashed potatoes or something. I don't know if it was mashed potatoes. I know it
yeah,
was.
no, yeah, that is in the movie.
Yeah, it
If
was
you
really
can't
funny.
remember that, that's just it's fun.
Yeah,
Cool.
it's a weird movie. Not much really happens with the plot. It's pretty simple. They spend a lot of the time at the lab. I do kind of find the villain funny. I guess he's a fine villain. I don't really remember his name. I just refer to him as Alien General Guy. Did they ever say his
Yeah,
name? I don't even remember them saying
I don't
his
think they
name.
ever did, honestly. Like, no, no, my thing with him is, what was I gonna say? I, I think he's an entertaining character when they try to do this whole thing where it's like, they like redeem him later. It's
His
like,
name is Edgar Singer. I don't remember them saying that name. I think they might have been saying
that
that.
I did not hear those words exit his mouth.
Yeah. Uh,
So,
Um, yeah, I
yeah,
don't know. I think I've said most of the stuff I needed to say about this movie. It's like, it's pretty weird, but it's a fun movie nonetheless, you know? I can't help but enjoy and have a couple laughs while watching it. So for what it is, this is a fun movie, and if you want, you can check it out. Do you have anything else to say?
I don't think I have all too much to like add. I think we went over it like pretty well. I'm trying to think, just don't have anything to like dwell on. Yeah, I think we like covered it all pretty well. From a more production standpoint, this movie is sort of credited with being like a real downfall for the Muppets. Not in terms of quality, even though it kind of is. But this movie did not the best box office wise, which is really sad. It got on a budget of 24 million, it grossed 22.3 million. That's really
Yeah,
bad.
that's
So,
not good.
that's and this movie is kind of credited for sort of depleting the Muppet depleting the Muppet like license, because even though this wasn't like a big Disney one, they were like, all right, we're not,
Yeah, that's why they
this one
wait
didn't do as
till.
well. Till 2011, 12 years after this movie to be back to theaters, because
Yeah, and
after
that
this
film's
Muppet
all
was
about the
devoted to,
Muppets being like old and washed up now and having to make a
yeah,
comeback.
exactly.
So,
Which, yeah, it was kind of a whole like meta thing, which is like, you know what, it really isn't like the, I'm gonna say, it's just kind of sad in retrospect, because like, well, I don't know. Like the it's not even like I don't like, well, I like this movie, but I think ultimately I don't think it's that well written. It has a lot of stuff I'm iffy on. Just kind of caused the downfall of the Muppets for a little bit, and I think that's awfully sad. So,
mhm.
yeah, but as we can get to ratings now, I would give this movie a 5 out of 10 because I really enjoy it. There's a lot I like about it. However, story wise, I ultimately think it kind of falls apart a little bit. So, despite me definitely enjoying it more than like Treasure Island, I think that movie's a lot better. So, yeah,
I'm gonna give
I'll give it
it
a
a
5.
solid 6 out of 10. You know, I think I'm more positive towards
Mhm.
you, despite my many issues with the movie's story. But I still had a good time watching
Mm,
it and thought it was a
you
fun
know, that
movie.
more power to you. I understand that. I just, as someone who really likes these Muppet movies, I'm a little more critical on these like last two. It's like, especially this one where it's like I have a lot of like story problems, but it's fine.
Yeah.
Oh well.
Anyways, that's a wrap on another Campy Cast. Thank you for tuning in for another episode. In terms of
Yeah.
what's next, maybe we'll do another Christmas
We're
special, but if not, we'll be back like probably
no
after
promises, but we'll
Christmas.
try to figure out something.
Yeah,
And if you want
but
more Muppet, then we're still trying to figure out what we'll do with part three. But rest assured, it'll
it'll
definitely
probably come
be
out in like a
early
month
20.
from now, early 2024. So stay tuned
Yeah,
for that.
definitely 2024 for sure. So
Yeah,
stay
obviously.
tuned.
Yeah, and
And
yeah, in terms of like I don't know, maybe you'll
okay,
see us another channel which might be advertised on the community tab. So stay tuned for that.
yeah, yeah. Hope you enjoyed our second part of the Muppets. I think this is a great franchise to talk about.
Yeah.
And yeah,
Yeah. Thank you for tuning in
bye
for
bye.
another episode. Bye.